Princess Hae-yun couldn't sleep again. She lay in her bed aboard the massive spaceship called the Storyteller, watching the stars through her room's large window. The ship had been traveling through space for over 50 years, carrying the last survivors of Earth. Hae-yun was 22 years old, born on this very ship, but her dreams showed her what Earth had looked like. These weren't ordinary dreams. Hae-yun was special. She could see the memories of her ancestors when she slept. She was the last person who could do this, the last carrier of pure human genetic memory. Sometimes, this gift felt more like a heavy weight on her shoulders. Tonight, she watched a small light blink on and off on her ceiling. It was the ship's night cycle, when most of the 10,000 people aboard were sleeping. But sleep wouldn't come to her. Earlier that day, the ship's council had told her they were approaching a new planet, one that might become their home. Hae-yun sat up in her bed and touched the wall panel next to her. The screen lit up, showing her reflection. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Her long black hair was messy from tossing and turning. She wore the simple white sleeping clothes that everyone on the ship used, but the small crown mark on her collar showed she was different from the others. "Computer," she said softly, "show me today's report about the new planet." The screen changed, showing pictures of a blue and green world. It looked a lot like Earth, the planet she had never seen except in her dreams. The computer's voice was calm and quiet as it read the report. Planet designation NK427. Atmosphere, breathable. Water, present. Temperature, suitable for human life. Hae-yun closed her eyes. Immediately, a memory that wasn't hers filled her mind. She saw Earth's green forests, felt warm rain on her skin, and heard birds singing. These were her grandmother's memories, from before the great disaster that forced humanity to leave Earth. A knock on her door brought her back to the present. "Princess," a voice called. "Are you awake?" "Come in," Hae-yun said, quickly fixing her hair. The door slid open, and her teacher, an older woman named Sunmi, entered the room. Sunmi had been teaching Hae-yun since she was a child, helping her understand and control her genetic memories. "I thought you might be awake," Sunmi said, sitting on the edge of Hae-yun's bed. "Is it the new planet, or the memories?" "Both," Hae-yun admitted. "The planet in the reports. It looks so much like the Earth I see in my dreams, but something feels different about it. When I try to sleep, the memories are stronger than usual, almost like they're trying to tell me something." Sunmi nodded slowly. "Your gift is important, Hae-yun. You carry humanity's past within you. These memories might be trying to guide us." Hae-yun got up and walked to the window. The stars stretched endlessly before her. Somewhere out there was the planet they had found, waiting for them. But was it really their new home? Or was it something else? "What if I make a mistake?" she asked quietly. "What if I lead our people to the wrong place? Everyone depends on my memories to help guide us, but sometimes I'm not sure if I'm interpreting them correctly." Sunmi stood and placed a gentle hand on Hae-yun's shoulder. "That's why you're not alone. You have the council, your teachers, and all our people to help you. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." As they stood there looking at the stars, a small light caught Hae-yun's eye. Far in the distance, something flickered, like a star blinking in and out of existence. She felt a strange pull in her mind, and suddenly a new memory surfaced. But this one was different from all the others. It wasn't about Earth at all. Hae-yun pressed her hand against the cold window. "Sunmi," she whispered, "I think something is about to change. Something big." The older woman squeezed her shoulder gently. "Then we'll face it together, whatever it is." Outside the window, the strange light flickered again, like a beacon calling them forward into the unknown depths of space. Lieutenant Do-hyun stood at his post in the ship's security center, watching the main screen with careful eyes. The strange light that Princess Hae-yun had seen last night had grown larger. Now everyone could see it. a swirling mass of blue and purple energy that lay directly in the storyteller's path. "Sir," one of his officers called out, "the storm is giving off unusual energy readings, nothing like we've seen before." Do-hyun frowned. He had been in charge of the ship's security for 5 years, but this was new. The screen showed the storm growing larger by the minute. He pressed the communication button on his uniform. "Bridge, this is security. Are we changing course?" The answer came back quickly. "Negative, Lieutenant. Admiral Kita wants us to maintain our current path. The storm isn't dangerous according to our readings." Just then, the ship's lights flickered. Do-hyun's screen flashed with a new message. "Security alert. Royal Quarters." Without hesitation, he grabbed his equipment and headed for the door. "Team 2, with me," he ordered, and 2 officers quickly followed him. They reached Princess Hae-yun's quarters in less than 3 minutes. The guards outside her door looked worried. "She's having some kind of episode, sir," one of them reported. She started screaming about the memories being too strong. Do-hyun took a deep breath and pressed the door calm. "Princess Hae-yun, this is Lieutenant Do-hyun from security. May we come in?" The door slid open. Inside, they found Hae-yun sitting on the floor, her teacher Sun-mi holding her shoulders. Hae-yun's eyes were open wide, but she seemed to be looking at something none of them could see. "The storm," Hae-yun whispered. "It's calling to the memories inside me. They're all trying to wake up at once." Do-hyun knelt beside her, keeping a professional distance. "Your Highness, we should move you to a safer location until the storm passes." Hae-yun turned to look at him, and for a moment, Do-hyun felt like she was seeing straight through him. "You don't understand," she said. "The storm isn't passing. It's following us. Or maybe we're following it." The ship shuddered again, and the lights flickered more strongly this time. Do-hyun's communication device crackled with static. Through the window, the storm had grown so large it filled their entire view, its swirling colors casting strange shadows in the room. "Lieutenant," Sun-mi said quietly, "I know this may sound strange, but I think she's right. This isn't a normal storm. Look at how it's moving." Do-hyun watched the storm's pattern. It did seem to be moving with purpose, almost as if it was alive. His training told him to follow protocol. Get the princess to a secure location, maintain order, wait for instructions. But something about this situation felt different. Hae-yun suddenly stood up, walking to the window. Her hand reached out to touch the glass. "I can feel them," she said. "The memories are changing. They're not just about Earth anymore. There's something else, something older." The ship's computer announced, "Attention all personnel. Entering unknown energy field in 5 minutes. Please secure all stations." Do-hyun made his decision. "Your Highness," he said, "I'm going to stay here with you. If this storm is affecting your genetic memories, we need to understand why." He turned to his team. "Secure the corridor. No one in or out without my direct approval." Hae-yun nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I think we're about to learn something important, something that was hidden in our past." As the storm enveloped their ship, the lights continued to flicker. Through the window, they could see what looked like patterns in the energy field, shapes that almost seemed like writing. Hae-yun's eyes grew wide as she watched them. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "like a story written in light." Do-hyun stood guard, watching both the princess and the storm. He had been trained to protect against physical threats, but how could he protect someone from memories? As the ship entered deeper into the strange storm, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Admiral Kita stood in the great council chamber of the storyteller, looking at the assembled leaders. The room was quiet except for the gentle hum of the ship's engines. Through the large windows, the strange storm still swirled around them, casting purple and blue light across everyone's faces. "The princess must be tested," he said firmly. "The old laws are clear. When a carrier of genetic memory shows unusual responses, We must verify their abilities. The council members whispered among themselves. Some looked worried, others curious. Admiral Kita walked to a small box on the center table. It was made of dark metal and had strange markings on its surface. He opened it carefully, revealing a small crystal that glowed with a soft blue light. "This is a quantum resonance crystal," he explained. "Our ancestors called it the P in their stories. It can detect true genetic memory carriers. No technology can fake its response." In her quarters, He-yun sat quietly, while medical officers checked her vital signs. Lieutenant Do-hyun stood nearby, watching everything carefully. The storm's strange light made shadows dance on the walls. "Your Highness," a medical officer said, "your brain activity is unusually high. Are you still seeing the memories?" He-yun nodded slowly. "They're clearer now. Different, like they're coming from somewhere else, not just Earth." The door opened, and Admiral Kita entered with several council members. They carried the metal box with great care. Do-hyun noticed how everyone stood straighter when the Admiral walked in. "Princess He-yun," the Admiral said formally, "the Council has decided. You must undergo the ancient test. We need to understand what's happening to your abilities." He-yun looked at the box, then at the storm outside her window. "The test of the crystal," she said quietly. "I've seen it in the old memories. But Admiral, I don't think it will work the way you expect. Something is different now." The Admiral nodded to his assistants. They began setting up special sensor arrays around He-yun's bed. 20 layers of them, each one more sensitive than the last. The quantum crystal would go at the bottom, under all the layers. "The test is simple," Admiral Kita explained. "If you are truly connected to the genetic memories, you will feel the crystal's presence through all these layers. Its frequency matches the pattern of human genetic memory perfectly." Do-hyun watched as they carefully placed the crystal and activated the sensor arrays. The machines hummed softly, creating a field that would block any normal scanning technology. "What happens if she passes the test?" Do-hyun asked. The Admiral turned to him. "Then we will know her connection to the memories is still pure. But if she fails..." He left the sentence unfinished. He-yun lay down on her bed, looking calm despite everything happening around her. "I'm ready," she said simply. The lights dimmed as the test began. The sensor arrays created a soft barrier of light around the bed. Everyone watched as He-yun closed her eyes. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the crystal began to pulse with a stronger light. He-yun's eyes snapped open, glowing with the same blue color as the crystal. "I can feel it," she whispered. "But it's not just sending the old signal. It's receiving something too. From out there." She pointed to the storm. The Admiral stepped forward, his face serious. "What do you mean, receiving?" "The crystal," He-yun said, her voice growing stronger. "It's not just a test. It's a key. Our ancestors left it for us, waiting for the right moment. And now..." Before she could finish, all the sensor arrays flashed brightly at once. The crystal's light grew so intense, they had to shield their eyes. Through the window, the storm seemed to pulse in response. Do-hyun moved closer to He-yun's bed, ready to protect her if needed. But as he watched, he realized that whatever was happening, it was beyond anything he could protect her from. The test had become something else entirely, not an ending, but a beginning. Night after night, Lieutenant Do-hyun stood guard in Princess He-yun's quarters. The quantum crystal continued to pulse beneath the sensor arrays, filling the room with soft blue light. He-yun hadn't slept properly in 3 days, and dark circles had formed under her eyes. "You should try to rest," Do-hyun said, offering her a cup of warm tea. He-yun took the cup with shaking hands. "I can't sleep," she whispered. "The memories keep coming, but they're not like before. These are older, much older than Earth." The storm outside their ship hadn't gone away. Instead, it seemed to be guiding them somewhere. The storyteller's navigation systems had started following a path that hadn't been there before, as if the storm was creating a road through space. Do-hyun checked his security monitors again. He had started keeping detailed records of everything strange that happened in the room. The temperature would suddenly drop without reason. Objects would move slightly when no one was near them. Sometimes they heard whispers in languages no one understood. "Tell me what you see in these new memories," he said, sitting down in his chair near her bed. Hae-yun stared at the crystal through the sensor arrays. "I see cities made of light, ships bigger than planets, humans, but different somehow. They knew things we've forgotten. They—" She stopped suddenly, her eyes growing wide. "What is it?" Do-hyun asked, leaning forward. "They're watching us right now," she said quietly. The crystal pulsed brighter, and all the screens in the room flickered at once. Do-hyun's hand moved to his weapon, though he knew it would be useless against whatever was happening. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "maybe we should tell Admiral Kita about this." Hae-yun shook her head. "Not yet. The memories are trying to show me something important, something about why we really left Earth." She stood up and walked to the window, placing her hand against the glass. The storm's light seemed to reach toward her touch. Our ancestors didn't just leave Earth because they had to. They were following a signal, the same signal we're following now. Do-hyun watched as she traced patterns on the window with her finger. He had been trained to be practical, to trust only what he could see and touch. But in the past 3 days, he had seen too many impossible things to ignore. "The crystal isn't just testing me," Hae-yun continued. "It's awakening something. Knowledge that was hidden in our genes, waiting for the right moment." Suddenly, the crystal's light changed from blue to gold. Hae-yun turned around, and Do-hyun saw that her eyes had changed color to match it. When she spoke again, her voice sounded different, as if other voices were speaking with her. "They seeded the stars with crystals like this one," she said, "waiting for their children to grow wise enough to follow the path home. We're not just looking for a new planet to live on, Do-hyun. We're being called back to something we lost long ago." The ship's computer announced, "Approaching unknown stellar phenomenon. All personnel prepare for possible course changes." Do-hyun looked at his security screens, then back at Hae-yun. He had sworn to protect her, but how could he protect someone who was becoming something else entirely? As he watched, she placed her hand over the sensor arrays, and all 20 layers became transparent like glass. "I think," she said softly, "this is just the beginning of our real story." The storyteller's main hall was filled with people. Admiral Kita had called an emergency meeting after the strange events in Princess Hae-yun's quarters. The quantum crystal now sat in the center of the room, its golden light filling the space. Hae-yun stood beside it, looking stronger than she had in days. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything we know about our history," she said, her voice clear and steady. "The memories have shown me the truth about our past." Do-hyun watched from his position near the door. The storm outside the ship cast moving shadows through the windows, making everything seem dreamlike. "We think we left Earth for the first time in 3157, Hae-yun continued. "But that wasn't our first journey to the stars. It wasn't even our second." She touched the crystal, and it projected images into the air. Everyone gasped as they saw cities made of light, ships that could fold space, and humans wearing clothes that looked both ancient and far too advanced. "Millions of years ago, humans didn't evolve on Earth. We came to Earth." Hae-yun's words made the room break into worried whispers. "The memories in our genes are so old that we forgot they were memories at all." Admiral Kita stepped forward. "Princess, are you saying our entire history is wrong?" "Not wrong," Hae-yun said gently. "Just incomplete. The crystal isn't just a test of genetic memory. It's a key left behind by our ancestors. They knew that someday we would need to remember who we really are." The storm outside grew brighter, and the ship's computer announced, Unknown energy patterns detected. Match found in ancient database. Heyun nodded, as if she had expected this. The storm isn't random. It's a beacon. Our ancestors knew that when we were ready, when we had grown wise enough to leave Earth again, we would find their messages. She waved her hand over the crystal, and new images appeared. They showed a map of the galaxy, with paths of light connecting different stars. One path glowed brighter than the others, leading away from their current position. They left signs for us to follow, she explained. The stories about testing a princess's sensitivity with a pea, they weren't just fairy tales. They were instructions passed down through time, waiting for someone who could understand them. Do-hyun noticed that some council members looked afraid, while others seemed excited. He understood both reactions. Everything they had believed about their history was changing. But why? Someone asked. Why did our ancestors leave us on Earth? Heyun's expression grew sad. To protect us. There was a great danger, something they couldn't defeat. So they hid us on Earth, let us grow up again from the beginning. They scattered special crystals across the galaxy, each one containing a piece of our true history. The storm's light suddenly changed color, matching the golden glow of the crystal. Through the windows, they could see patterns forming in the energy field, symbols that looked like ancient writing. And now, Heyun said, they're calling us home. The danger they feared is long gone. Our ancestors have been waiting all this time, watching us grow, waiting for us to be ready to rejoin them. Do-hyun felt a shiver run down his spine. In all his years of security training, nothing had prepared him for this moment. He looked at Heyun and saw that her eyes were glowing with the same golden light as the crystal. She wasn't just telling their story. She was becoming part of it. Science Director Namju walked through the corridors of the storyteller with quick, angry steps. Behind her, a group of scientists and security officers followed. The ship's lights reflected off their worried faces as they headed toward the main council chamber. This has gone too far, Namju said to her followers. The princess is clearly affected by the storm's radiation. We cannot let her wild stories change our mission. Inside the council chamber, Heyun was still showing the ancient memories through the crystal's projections. Do-hyun stood close by, watching the crowd's reactions. When Namju burst through the doors, he immediately stepped closer to the princess. Admiral Kita, Namju called out loudly, I must speak. As science director, I have evidence that the storm is dangerous. It's affecting the princess's mind. These visions aren't real memories. They're radiation damage. The room grew quiet. Namju held up a data tablet, showing charts and readings. Look at these brain scans. The princess's neural patterns are completely unusual. We need to take her to Medical Bay and turn this ship around immediately. Heyun stayed calm, her golden eyes steady. Director Namju, you're afraid. I understand. The truth about our past is shocking. But these aren't radiation effects. Let me show you. She reached for the crystal, but Namju stepped back. No more shows with that ancient technology. Guards, secure the crystal. It's clearly dangerous. Do-hyun moved between Namju and Heyun. Director, stand down. The princess is under my protection. Lieutenant Do-hyun, Namju said sharply, you're letting fairy tales cloud your judgment. We're supposed to be finding a new home, not chasing ancient myths. The storm outside pulsed brighter, as if responding to the argument. The crystal's light grew stronger too, casting long shadows across the room. Admiral Kita raised his hands for silence. Director Namju, he said firmly, I understand your concerns, but I've seen things in the past few days that your science cannot explain. The princess. The princess is just a girl. Namju interrupted. A girl with an inherited quirk that lets her access old memories. Nothing more. These stories about ancient advanced humans are impossible. Heyun stepped forward, her face gentle but determined. Director, why does this frighten you so much? Is it because it changes everything you believed? or because it means we're not alone. Namju's face turned red. Guards, take the crystal. This ends now. But when the guards stepped forward, something extraordinary happened. The crystal's light spread across the floor like flowing water, creating a circle around Heyun and Do-hyun. When the guards tried to cross it, they couldn't move forward. You see, Heyun said softly. The crystal knows its true guardians. Our ancestors left these safeguards in place, waiting for the right moment. Namju stared at the light barrier, her scientific mind struggling to understand what she was seeing. This is impossible. No, Heyun replied. This is who we really are, who we were always meant to be. The storm isn't just guiding our ship, it's guiding us back to our true selves. Do-hyun watched as the golden light reflected in Namju's eyes, turning her anger into wonder. Sometimes, he thought, the hardest part of discovery wasn't finding the truth, it was accepting it when it found you. The storyteller's navigation room was filled with urgent voices. The storm had begun pulling the ship in a new direction, and none of the controls were responding. Through the wide windows, they could see the storm creating a tunnel of golden light ahead of them. All engines are working normally, the chief engineer reported, but we can't change course. It's as if the ship knows where it wants to go. Admiral Kita turned to Heyun, who stood quietly watching the storm. Even Director Namju had stopped arguing, too amazed by what was happening to protest further. Princess, the Admiral said, you told us the quantum crystal was more than just a test. What did you mean? Heyun walked to the main navigation screen, the crystal floating in the air beside her. Its light had spread throughout the ship's systems, creating new patterns in all the displays. The test was never about proving I was a real princess, she explained. It wasn't even about testing genetic memory. Our ancestors were testing all of humanity. They wanted to know if we were ready to wake up. Do-hyun stepped closer. Wake up to what? To who we really are. Heyun placed her hand on the crystal, and suddenly all the screens in the room showed the same ancient symbols they had seen in the storm. Humans weren't meant to be limited to one planet. We weren't meant to be trapped by gravity or time. The abilities I have, they're not special. They're sleeping inside everyone. The ship shuddered as it entered the storm's light tunnel. Outside, the normal stars vanished, replaced by streams of golden energy. The crystal pulsed in time with these streams, like a heart beating in rhythm with the universe. The crystal responds to me because I was taught to listen to the old memories, Heyun continued. But now it's calling to everyone. Listen carefully. Can't you hear it? The room grew quiet. At first, there was only the sound of the ship's engines. Then, one by one, people began to gasp. A soft whisper filled their minds. Not in words, but in feelings and images. Ancient memories, long buried in their genes, started to wake up. Director Namju's eyes widened. These equations, I understand them now. They're not just mathematics. They're the language of space itself. The Admiral looked at his hands in wonder. I remember how to read the stars. Not just with instruments, but with my mind. Do-hyun felt it too. Knowledge flowing into his thoughts like a river breaking through a dam. He understood now why he had felt so drawn to protect Heyun. It wasn't just duty. Some part of him had recognized what she represented. The real test, Heyun said softly, is whether we're ready to accept this gift. Our ancestors hid these abilities inside us, protected them through countless generations, knowing that someday we would need them again. The ship's computer spoke with a new voice, deeper and more alive than before. Primary transformation beginning. All systems entering quantum alignment. Heyun turned to face everyone in the room. This is the moment of choice. We can turn back now, stay as we are, or we can go forward and become what we were always meant to be. The golden light grew brighter, filling every corner of the ship. Through the windows, they could see their destination, a point of pure light that seemed to contain all the colors of creation. What's waiting for us there? Du-hyun asked. Hye-yun smiled, her eyes reflecting the ancient wisdom that had awakened in all of them. Home, she said simply. Our real home. The storyteller emerged from the tunnel of golden light into a space that took everyone's breath away. Before them stretched a vast system of planets circling 3 suns, but these weren't ordinary planets. Each one glowed with its own inner light, connected to the others by bridges made of pure energy. In the center of it all floated something that made even Hye-yun gasp, a station larger than Earth itself, shaped like a flower opening to the stars. Its petals were made of crystal similar to the one they carried, but on an unimaginable scale. The eternal garden, Hye-yun whispered, ancient memories flowing through her mind. The heart of humanity's first civilization. The ship's communication system suddenly came alive with voices speaking in languages both strange and somehow familiar. Du-hyun watched as Hye-yun's eyes filled with happy tears. They're welcoming us home, she said, translating for everyone. They'd been waiting so long for us to return. Admiral Kita stood at the main viewport, his face full of wonder. How many of them are there? Billions, Hye-yun answered. Our family has grown while we were away. They've built all of this, keeping it ready for the day Earth's children would remember who they are. Director Namju, who had once doubted everything about their journey, now worked quickly at her science station. The technology here, it's beyond anything we could have imagined. But I understand how it works now. The knowledge was in our genes all along. The ship moved toward the great station, guided by beams of welcoming light. As they drew closer, they could see other ships coming to meet them, vessels that seemed to be made of living crystal, each one unique and beautiful. Do-hyun noticed something else through the viewport. It's raining, he said in surprise. But how can it rain in space? Hye-yun smiled. The eternal garden creates its own weather. The rain is part of their welcome ceremony. Each drop contains memories. The story of everything that happened while we were gone. As if responding to her words, the quantum crystal floated from its place and grew larger. Its light spread through the ship, touching each person aboard. When the light reached them, they could feel the rain's memories even though they were still inside the ship. I understand now, Admiral Kita said softly, why our ancestors left these memories hidden in our genes. We had to grow up again, learn wisdom on our own, before we could handle the power they left for us. The ship's computer spoke one last time in its new living voice. Docking procedure initiated. Welcome home, children of Earth. Hye-yun turned to Du-hyun, who still stood protectively near her. The story of the princess and the pea was never about finding a true princess, she said. It was about humanity finding its way back to the stars. We all passed the test together. As the storyteller docked with the massive station, the rain of memories fell around them in sheets of silver light. Each drop carried a story, a piece of the great tale they were now joining. They had left Earth looking for a new home, but found instead that home had been waiting for them all along. The crystal's light faded gently, its work complete. They didn't need it anymore. The knowledge it had protected was awake in all of them now, and the real story, their story, was just beginning.